Leave there, let me capture it. See, leave there, let me capture it. Right now. Speak louder, please.
FCT came here
with security,
with
right?
security, government. They came and picked our result sheet that we are completing. Just now, they tear gas everybody. They picked our result sheet and went with it.
So you were here also, right? Civil defense and police.
Yes, I'm police.
Civil defense and police.
No, wow.
So I captured the video. So this is PDP. So the police and the civil defense, they came all of a sudden and destroyed the process in a polling unit because PDP are winning. So they tear gas everyone.
Now the chairman.
See, let me see the shaman. Let me see the shaman. Let me see. Show me. Show the shaman.
Now council on the carry.
Very good.
Now the chairman. Hey, they are told they will not come back again. They have gone.
See.
The intimidation and attacks on the ADC party members by security agencies, massive vote buying across several wards, and voter suppression caused by the late arrival of election materials in key polling units, including Kabusa, among many others. These actions undermine the integrity of the electoral process and the confidence of the people in our democracy. Our movement was never built on the fragile foundation of titles. It was built on the enduring foundation of truth, and truth does not expire with an election. To the young men and women who stood in the sun for hours, who walked distances they never knew, and who gave their time, strength, and voices, you are the author of a new chapter. To those who came from far and near, who sacrificed their resources and endured intimidation and doubt, your sacrifices have forever altered the moral landscape of AMAC.
The FCT election, that's where we are today. The FCT election happened over the weekend and it has been concluded. 62 councillor seats and 6 area council seats. The APC went home with 5 and the PDP went home with 1. I don't really know where to start. Who could imagine that the PDP could still win election again? But while we also talk about the PDP winning election, let's look at the turnout of the election. 15% turnout. INEC says an improvement from what it was in 2022. So let's start with the turnouts.
Well, thank you again. The turnout was improved, no doubt, but it still does not change the fact that there is still a low turnout, of voters with regards to the FCT election. That we have a 15% increase in the turnout. 15% is not a significant figure. It's just a little improvement from what we had in 2022. But nevertheless, it is an indication that people are becoming more aware, of the need to come out and choose their leaders and then vote, so that their votes will be counted. So that's just what I think.
Well, what INEC said is an improvement, 15%, turnout is an improvement. But for me as a person, we can't really measure this turnout, and INEC should not deceive itself. Why I say so is that we saw results where we have 211 people being accredited, and at the end of the day, over 1,500 people will vote. So how does INEC really measure the turnout in a polling unit like that? So the turnouts, we saw many polling units that had 700 registered voters, 8 people were voting, 20 people were voting. And if we look at what really happened, polling units were changed. It was in the morning of election that people received text message that their polling units had been changed by INEC. For me as a person, INEC shouldn't celebrate its voter suppression, because somehow INEC deliberately engaged in voters suppression, and someone is telling us here to celebrate the turnout. But beyond the turnout and beyond the turnout, yes, there's an issue you have not talked about, the PDP. Who could imagine that the PDP could still win an election again? But talking about the PDP, now there were accusations of rigging, vote buying, voter suppression, and intimidation in that election. So the issues you're talking about here is the PDP, vote buying, rigging, and voter suppression.
Okay, let me begin with the PDP.
Yes.
I will only say congratulations, a small congratulations to the PDP, because even though I know that that victory is just a smoke screen, because trust me, INEC will keep deceiving themselves and thinking they're deceiving Nigerians. INEC are not ready. They are not ready for 2027 election. In fact, the country is not ready for the next elections. Why do I say this?
Okay.
This same INEC and the lawmakers too, who have told us that there will be no network, or there might be no network to transmit results electronically, are the ones who send text messages to people
On election.
informing them of the change.
How did they get their phone number?
So how did they get their phone number?
But phone number, I don't know where,
That is one part.
I don't know whether phone numbers are really put in the register.
The second part.
Okay.
The second part of this is this. When I said INEC were deceiving themselves and not Nigerians,
Okay.
is this. APC swept nearly the entire councillor or whatever council seats. But you will have seen incidents where 12 votes miraculously turned to 120 something votes,
Or even thousands.
and even thousands. And you begin to wonder where all of these things are coming. And now there were allegations that these things were done as soon as party agents left the polling units. So this is where that automatic transmission of election result should have come to play. Are they trying to tell us that there was no network that day? Are they trying to tell us that they had no means to transmit that election result electronically? So if they want to, let me assume there was no network. What network did they use to send text messages to people?
But there's something I want us to talk about in this election. We saw, yes, I concede that we saw that there were incidents of rigging, happening. And then we've talked about, we've not talked about voter suppression. The fact that a curfew was declared. The fact that, okay, you've talked about voter suppression when you talked about the fact that people did not know their polling units have been changed. And Yaga Africa, for example, talked about intimidation, where the police have to use tear gas in a collation center. Beyond that, Yaga Africa identified that the word collation center is the weakest and the most vulnerable part of this election. But let me also say this. I agree with Yaga Africa because most of the anomalies that happen in the polling unit are supposed to be corrected at that level of word collation. And you know what happened in Nigeria? The moment they refuse to collect it there and they don't correct it at the local government, by the time you go to the state collation, or I say, what's my agent doing there? We cannot do this. You cannot prove it. And then you know what the judiciary have said on that issue.
Well, I wouldn't want to say much about that because clearly what happened is what has been happening. And until there is a revolt, a revolution against every form of electoral malpractice in this country, there will be no change. Take for example, Minister Wike was going from one polling unit to another. As what? Election observer? INEC official? As what? And when he was asked, he said he was supervising the election. Wow. And you still ask yourself how PDP got one vote and one seat and the rest went to APC. I concede ADC may not be prepared for the election, but I can tell you for free that APC did not win the majority of the council votes, on a free and fair election. That election was not free and fair. That is just what I have to say.
I want to say that my opinion about the PDP winning this some of the seats and even doing better than the ADC is that the PDP still have structure. And mind you, some of these council chair were elected on the platform of the PDP or defected to APC, especially the guy in the Abuja Municipal Council because of the crisis in the party. But we've talked about the PDP. Let's talk about this election, the implication on the APC as the party. Does that boost their chances? Does it show that the APC is actually becoming popular? And let's talk about the implication on the ADC, an emerging party. While talking about the implication on the ADC, there's an important point to make. This election seems to worsen the fight between the obedience and the articulate. You saw them, if you're on social media, you see them on each other's neck. The articulates trying to blame the obedience. They are the reason why we didn't do well in this election.
Well, the fight can always happen.
Okay.
At the end of the ADC primary, these same people will unite to fight this government.
So you think they will unite?
Yes, definitely they will. But one thing I also want to state here, APC should not celebrate yet. Because if I were the APC, I would have saved the best skill of my rigging for the best time. But now they have made people even more aware that they are not ready to repent. This election and everything that has happened will make people become even more aware. Now look at it. They have to wait for people to leave. They have to wait for people to leave so that they can write their own result. Imagine in this 2026, people still use TPEX to be rewriting figures, to be cancelling figures.
Maybe it's a mistake. People can make mistakes.
Yes, we can wait. In 2027, I am very, very sure that this election will be an eye for an eye. Because they have just shown us that they have nothing to do with free and fair election. If not, why would 12 votes turn to 127? 13 votes turn to 300 and you see the obvious cancellation. If you bring these things to organizations,
to the bank,
for example, telling you for free that nobody will accept it. Nobody will accept it. Not to talk of.
Even the courts sometimes reject such things as exhibits.
Yes, and then you bring such a thing, to a sensitive place
as official document.
As an official document.
Okay.
What a joke! What a joke! 2027, we are waiting.
Let me say, when you say the supporters of the party will unite, let's see how it plays out. But beyond the supporters, let's talk about INEC in all this. It seems like Professor Mupita's side doesn't understand that there is a need for confidence building. It seems like the security agencies don't understand that Nigerians need to trust them, to enable them and INEC conduct a peaceful election, at least a peaceful election. Or do you think that it is a game plan towards making the people, because I also think so, to make the people to just forget about 2027, that is a walk-up?
Well, all I know is that there's one thing I have to say to the INEC chairman, and it is this. He should continue with the work his paymaster has given him. That man is obviously a Tinubu boy, So he will do what his master has appointed him to do. We don't expect anything less. But as for there is another thing you pointed out.
Security agency.
Yeah, let them continue. You know, they will be like their mates that have retired and they are still looking for their entitlements and their gratuity. Let them continue being a tool in the hands of these selfish politicians. You know, and by the time they gather with placards in their old age to demand for their gratuity and telling us how they served for 5 years and all that, we will remind them that there was a time when people protested and they used tear gas. There was a time people tried to speak for them and they used water cans. And there were times people tried to stand up for them and they used their guns against them. October 2020 will never be forgotten.
Well, I think I have my own message. I'm just trying to see if we still have time. First and foremost, one of the reasons why the APC did not do well in this election is this dependence on volunteers. I saw situations where the so-called volunteers were paid. You don't use volunteers as agents. You have to have agents. Train these agents. Make these agents understand what is at stake. Okay? You train them. If you depend on volunteers, the volunteers could be paid off. We saw it happen in this election. Some of them were paid off. That's one. Secondly is that it is the job of the political parties to mobilize voters. It is not the job of INEC. If you mobilize voters to come in mass, to stand, to wait, make them understand that INEC is a problem. That INEC is not willing to do the right thing, but you have to wait. It will help you. The third is that we saw indigenous politics play out. Most of the candidate the APC field were the indigenous Gwagis in Abuja. We can't take up the fact that Abuja is ancestral land of the Gwagis. Those candidates were Gwagi. And you know the senator representing FCT is not a Gwagi woman. And then some guys from the Federal House of Rep. So those people, that sentiment helped the APC in this election. And finally, my final message to all the political parties, especially the opposition, is this. We have seen that elections in Nigeria is determined mainly by the low-income earners, the poor, the destitute. It's not healthy for us as a people. We need to find a way to encourage or mobilize the middle class and even the high-income earners to vote. They will make a better decision more than the low-income earners. The low-income earners are easy to sell their vote because for them, they are only looking for a daily pay or just something to eat for the meantime. I think that's where we're going to end for today. And by chance this video come your way, I will appeal that you subscribe, comment. Like I always say, your criticism will be appreciated. Until I come your way next time, I remain yours truly from here. Good night.
Good night.